Hello, my name is William Mills, and I'm just going to start at the beginning of my testimony. I guess it all started where the troubles really started, which was when I was about 15 years old. I started to smoke marijuana and I started to drink and hung around the wrong crowd. And my dad worked for oil companies, so we moved around a lot. And when I was 18 years old, I was in 12th grade in high school, and we moved to Lafayette, Louisiana. So I spent my 12th grade high school year there. While I was there, I met a lot of strange people, and it was a very big party town, is all it really is. And while I was there was one particular guy that I had met there who one day he came over to my house, and I always thought he was really a strange, really a weird kind of guy. But, I mean, everybody was weird, but he was just a little more weird. So anyway, one day he came over, and I was at my house with a few friends of mine, and he starts to tell us what had happened to him the night before. And he said that he was in his Volkswagen, and he was driving through a cemetery, and as he was driving through the cemetery, the car died out on him. So he gets out of the car and walks out of the cemetery. But as he gets to the gate to leave the cemetery, he said that he couldn't move anymore. So he's sitting there at the gate trying to walk, and he can't walk, he says. And we're looking at each other, wondering, what's this guy talking about? We don't really believe him. But then he says a sheriff's car drives up, and the sheriff says to him, "Hey, how are you?" And the sheriff knew his name and went into the trunk and got an old black book and a black blanket and some candles. And they went over to a tombstone where there was a tombstone of Jesus on the cross. And in front of the tombstone, he opened up the blanket and read from that book. When he read from the book, he said that the devil appeared up above the tombstone. Now, when the devil appeared, he said that he could see him, but he could see through him also. And now I'm kind of mocking him, making fun, right, I don't believe you. And none of us really believed him. And he said, the devil told me none of y'all would believe me. And he also told me that his greatest power in controlling the world is the fact that people don't even know he exists. And we still kept mocking him and everything. And he said he really liked the devil. He thought he was really cool. He said that it's really neat how everything he says is a lie. He can't tell the truth. All he can do is lie. So I thought that was stupid also. I was telling him if all he does is lie, then what's so great about that? I mean, how can you even have a conversation with him and believe anything he tells you? But anyway, he said that he wasn't going to hang around with us anymore because the devil had work for him to do and that he was going to become an important person. And he told us that while he was there, the devil took him places in his mind and introduced him to people, and he met a lot of rock and roll stars who had sold their soul to the devil, and he met a lot of people. By astral projection or whatever, he left his body, or somehow the devil would take him places and introduce him to people and show him things. So anyway, we didn't really believe him, but there was a change in this guy's life because all of a sudden he didn't really hang around with us, but when we did see him, he always had different people with him. He had beautiful women with him. He had money. He had really good clothes, a good car, and everything changed. But then all of a sudden I moved anyway. I moved to College Station. But while I was in College Station, I kept thinking about that guy now and then. And when I was about 19 years old in College Station, I got on my knees because I started thinking maybe all that was true. Maybe he really did meet the devil. I mean, why not? Maybe it's true. So I prayed a prayer. I don't know where I learned it or what, but because I never went to church all my life. My parents were never Christians. They never took me to church. But I prayed a prayer, and I asked Jesus to come into my heart. And I said, Jesus, if you're real, if this is all real and you're for real, I want to know. I want you to come into my heart, and I want you to show me the truth. When I prayed that prayer, the only thing that God required of me, which I understand now, was for me to mean it. And I meant it when I prayed that prayer. So from then on, things changed for me, but I didn't know anything happened because I didn't see stars, I didn't see angels, nothing happened, I thought. But as time went on, God opened my eyes and my ears, and I started to see and hear things differently. I saw horror movies for what they really were. Horror movies that are really no good for anything but to destroy. Those people who watch those films, all they're doing is hurting themselves. And I didn't really understand that until after God opened my eyes. Before it was just nothing but entertainment. But now I can see what it does to people. When I would listen to the rock music, it was the same thing. I could see what rock music is doing to people, the way it's changing the way they think and so forth. But I couldn't see it that way before until I asked Jesus into my heart to show me the truth. So anyway, I realized after I started seeing these things that something must have really happened. So there is a God. And so I started praying, and I said, Lord, since you're real, I want you to take the pot out of my life. I want to quit smoking pot. I want to quit drinking. I want to quit cursing. And I want to quit smoking cigarettes. I want to straighten up, and I want to be a good Christian. So I went to a Baptist church, Catholic church, Methodist church. I even tried a Jehovah's Witness church, which I found out later is a cult. And going to all these different churches really didn't help me. So I eventually really didn't go to church. I just read the Bible a little bit and prayed a little bit here and there. I really didn't pray much after that first initial prayer. And I really didn't learn much. I had no one to help me or to disciple me. But I did have the Spirit of God with me, and He did make a big change in me, because all of a sudden my insides changed on the I changed on the inside. I wanted to improve myself, which I never did before. And I decided to go to college. And when I went to college, I'd always made C's and D's. When I went to college, I made A's and B's all of a sudden. All of a sudden, my reading improved. As I read the Bible, my reading really improved dramatically. And then as I was going to college, I got a job, and I was working. I was doing really well. Eventually, I quit college, and I was just working at this job, making good money. And I met this girl named Connie, and we went together for about 14 months. We went out, and then we got married. And as I was going out with her, I started to drink a beer now and then, and I started to take my eyes off of the Lord and put them on her and put them on the cares of this world. And I still, was with the Lord, and I even told my wife when we got married, I said, I want us to hang around Christian people. I don't want us to hang around any druggies or pot smokers. So she agreed, and at her workplace, after we got married, she met a girl named Giselle, who's a Catholic. And Giselle would drink a beer now and then, just like we would, and we'd get together with Giselle, and Giselle's husband's name was Kevin. And me and Kevin got along, and my wife and Giselle got along, and whenever we got together, we'd drink beer. So we started drinking more. And as time went on, I just completely took my eyes off of Jesus. I just completely forgot about Him and had my mind and everything on my wife, my money, my house, the booze, the fun, and just having a good time. And I was enjoying myself. One day, as time went on, this went for a few years like this. And then all of a sudden, one day, the guy Kevin and I was talking about smoking pot, how I used to smoke pot in high school. And so one day he gave my wife a joint. And my wife came home with a joint and puts it in my face and says, look what I got. Kevin gave it to me. He said y'all were talking about dope the other night, so he gave me this one. And I thought, well, I never told him to get me one. I just was talking to him about it. And my wife was saying, let's smoke it. So I smoked it with her that night. And I thought, I'm just going to smoke it this one time. And that'll be it, since we got it already. But all it took was that one time for me to go back to it again. We were laughing and joking and having a real good time and just enjoying ourselves, getting high. And as time went on, getting high and everything, God started to deal with us. I understand that now. At the time, I really didn't understand, but he was giving us dreams. And one dream, the first one I had, was of a bear trying to get into my house. And the bear was in the backyard trying to get in through the sliding glass door from the backyard. And the dream was so strong and vivid and so colorful that it stuck with me for a long time. Then my wife had a dream, and in her dream, she dreamt that she lost me to marijuana. I woke her up because she was crying in bed. I said, "Sweetie, wake up, what's wrong?" And she said, "Oh, I had a horrible dream. I dreamt that I lost you to marijuana." I said, "Honey, what am I going to do, leave you and go marry marijuana? I'm not going to leave you." And so she said she couldn't explain it. All she knows is she lost me to marijuana. That's all she knows. So I told her, I think that we need to quit smoking pot. I think God's trying to talk to us. I did tell her that. And she agreed, but we blew it off and kept on going anyway. Later on, one day we were sitting around watching TV, and all of a sudden I had a picture in my head. I wasn't asleep dreaming. I just pictured something all of a sudden for no reason. And what I pictured was an angel sitting on a rock, and this angel was sitting on a rock with a sword on his hip. And 4 or 5 hairy demons came walking up to the angel, pointing back behind the angel. The demons were hairy from head to toe, just full of hair. All over their face was hair. Everything was hairy. They were pointing back behind the angel, making like accusations or something. I couldn't hear any sound. And the angel would say something to them, and they'd scratch their heads and walk off, like they were confused. I pictured this twice, and I told my wife about it both times. And I said, "Man, that was really weird. That was really weird. I never had that happen before in my life. What in the world made me picture that?" And again, I told her, I said, I think God's dealing with me, and he's telling me we need to quit smoking pot. I think those demons are saying we're going to get in there. We got the right because he's smoking dope and he's drinking, and we need to go to church, Connie, and straighten up. And I actually wanted to go back to church now, when before I wasn't even going to church or anything. But I wanted to straighten up. And my wife was really the instigator in not straightening up. She really wanted to keep getting high. But I can't blame her. I can only blame myself for my own foolishness. But anyway, as time went on, we still kept on with it up until the point where we started to fight a lot. And my love for her left, and her love for me left. And to make a long story short, we started talking about divorce. We started to really hate each other. And then I lost my job, and I'm still drinking and smoking. Up until one day where I saw like a shadow come up out of the ground. When this shadow came up out of the ground, it hit me in the face. And instantly I knew that me and my wife were going to get a divorce. And I knew also that that shadow was a demon spirit. And I went and I prayed. I repented right there. I went and I prayed and repented, and I repented sincerely. We had tried earlier to repent, and I was even telling people about Jesus, and I planned on going to church, and I planned on straightening up, but my wife would pull me so strong away that it wouldn't work, and I really never committed. I never really prayed sincerely from my heart. I never really meant it. But when that shadow came up and hit me, that's when it really changed, and I really did mean it. And I repented at that moment, and I wanted to quit everything and straighten up. And I told my wife about it. I told her about the shadow, and everything changed with me, because when I went and talked to my wife after that, after I repented, she was acting mean to me again, but now I could see how ugly she looked, when before it didn't seem so bad. But now when she was yelling at me and stuff, I could see how ugly it looked. And I know I looked just as ugly because I was yelling at her too. We were all just verbally really ugly. And my wife still kept smoking the pot, still wanted the divorce, but now that I repented, I didn't want the divorce, and I didn't really hate her anymore. But I started to pray now and then,